Okay, select the stream. Refresh. Upcoming. Up and coming. Excellent. B. To each other. Okay. Top chat. I want all chat. Live chat. Everyone talking. I want all the people to be represented. Da-da-dum. What a segue. Hey. Alright. Hey. Welcome to yet... Oh yeah, we're going to start the music. Woo. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Redstone Lapis Lazuli. It is I, your host, Pogo Kiddo. I see we're going, so let me switch over. Hey, stop streaming. Okay, let's see. It works. Back to the game at hand. Alright, hello. Yes, welcome. How are you doing? I am, okay. Alright, let's go. So, I learned a lesson. I learned a lesson. I learned me something. And that lesson was, be careful with what you commit to in public. If you commit to something in public, and it's in public, then you can't uncommit to it without everyone knowing. And maybe you have a legitimate reason for not sticking to your commitment. Maybe, but sticking to commitment is a quality of integrity. Remember that word, integrity? Yeah, that idea of completeness, of holding things together. So if you put yourself up as a good person, you would, like, part of the definition of a good person is integrity. So sure, you can break all your commitments because it's only basically based on honor, unless you sign a contract. Now it's legal. But integrity is a big deal. And so, like, if you want to, like, continue calling yourself a good and decent person, so I made the public commitment of creating a statue of liberty and justice. And boy, was that way harder than I thought it would be. It was way harder than I thought. Like, it was way harder. I don't know why. It was just incredibly difficult. But I did it. It's kind of scary. It may not be beautiful, but it is done. I finally made the corresponding Statue of Justice to match the Statue of Liberty. So that's what made it so hard for me to come. Well, that's part of what made it so hard for me to come back to this show, because it was hard to come day after, like, week after week, saying, "Hi, I haven't done anything. Hi, I haven't done anything. Hi, I haven't done anything." I mean, like, well, you fucking committed to doing something. Why haven't you done something? Right? Like, what does your word mean if it's just a bunch of shit? Like, if you can break your word at will, and expect no consequences. So, anyways, part of it was like, what am I gonna tell you, right? What am I gonna tell you that you don't already know? Like, should I start the story from the beginning again? Like, like, like you already know it. And if you don't know it, just ask what parts you don't know. But like, the idea is that we live in a society that like, the illusion is that we are individuals, independent of all the other individuals that we see. But that's not the case, because we humans have only achieved what we have achieved by coming together in a larger organization called a society. And it would be crazy to think that society does not have an influence on the individual. Of course it does. Of course it does. Like, there's a whole thing called socialization, where society implants upon the individual, like it's basically downloading the OS. If you want to get to, like, computer terms, you're downloading an operating system onto a human being through countless ways. And one of those ways of downloading a society's operating system onto an individual is assigning them a gender at birth. If your operating system only has variables for 2 genders, like, then when it encounters anything other than the 2 genders, it creates an error and doesn't know how to respond in an operating system. And you would think that the rules of society would have some kind of corresponding relationship to the real world, reality, truth. Right? I mean, that's you don't want a rule of reality, or a real rule of society that is at odds with the truth, because then you would create messed up individuals. If your society teaches their children that the world is flat, like, when the reality is the world is a sphere, or the planet is a sphere, then yeah, your children are going to grow up with messed up ideas, trying to reconcile their observations of the real world with the false idea implanted in them as children. So, I mean, I'm just using gender as one example, because in truth, there are, like, gender doesn't exist out there, right? There's no objective measure, objective thing we can point to say gender. If you try to point to genitalia, and say, oh, genitalia determines gender, then I can point to all these other examples of intersex people with genitalia of various arrangements, genitalia and sexual reproductive organs. I can even point to chromosomes. There are instances of women who have XY chromosomes, but they're women. Like, if you want to say, well, gender is according to who can bear offspring, then I would say, then what about children and women who've gone through menopause, and just women who can't have children for whatever reason? Are they not women? Do they cease becoming women? And see, that starts touching upon where they're really coming from. Where they're really coming from is that ancient, like, Bronze Age idea of of like reproduction, sexual reproduction, controlling the reproduction of women. And controlling women via their reproductive systems, their organs, their biology. And gender has a part of that. So, anyways, you want society. Society exists. It has a profound influence upon the individual. And so it's important to study the society to understand which values are being propagated forward through time. Because it's going to create, your society is going to create individuals who then go on to reproduce that society. It's sort of like, man, have you ever seen that book? You ever read that book? I don't even know anymore. I read it in middle school. Like last millennia. In the last millennia. This book, it was by the same author who wrote A Wrinkle in Time. And I forget what it was. But this author talks about going down to the cellular level and talking to like dancing proteins or something. And there was one protein who didn't want to do the dance. and all the other proteins are like, if you don't do the dance, then we're gonna die and everything's gonna fall apart. And I think eventually they got the protein to like go along with everyone else and do the dance. Well, I think about that and I'm like, oh, that's like folding proteins in RNA and DNA when you reproduce a cell. You have to like it's like if you look down at I'm not a biologist, right? So I'm just going on my limited understanding of cellular biology. But from what I understand, RNA, like DNA is the blueprint and RNA is the printing press. Or something like that. Or the other way around. It's like no. Maybe DNA is like the media and RNA is the printing press. So the RNA is configured in a certain way to spit out chunks of DNA twisted arranged in a particular pattern. And that's like an instruction for the cell to regulate its behaviors at the cellular level. And in a way, I mean, and then so that author like did a fractal from the individual, like the whole person, down to their cellular level. Because, the same thing, right? Humans have to do a dance in order to reproduce society and themselves. Right? You don't just get to exist for free. Entropy is real, and the way our bodies are, all life requires energy. So you have to get that energy somehow, because otherwise it will fall apart, right? And then your consciousness will be gone. Well, leave this vessel. So humans too have to do a kind of dance through time in order to gather the energy to reproduce themselves, and at the same time they're reproducing the behaviors implanted into them since birth. We're all doing a dance. The whole thing's a dance. So we gotta know, like, but like, we like to think of ourselves as, we humans like to think of ourselves as independent and free thinking. So we're able to have the opportunity to choose, to make a choice as to what we're doing. So in other words, we have a way of influencing what comes out, the outcome. because if you did, you wouldn't have a choice if it didn't influence the outcome, right? It wouldn't be a choice otherwise. So humans can influence the outcome of individuals acting collectively can influence the outcome of the socialization machine that is society. It used to be that African Africans would become enslaved and yeah, they would serve their entire lives in suffering and bondage. That's the way it used to be. But individuals change society, banding together. So like groups banding together with the same idea. They had the same idea, so they banded together and danced in their own in a unity with one another to change society. It's a big dance party. And it can be done, right? It can be done. So it's important to understand what are those outcomes that are being created by society. So and the way you do that is through education. Education's fantastic. I love education. Education's great. Education is the way you make a better human. Because the individual humans live life inside the machine of society. And like, it's not perfect. And they can see it. They feel it, right? That's injustice. They feel injustice. And so, like, good humans want to make sure to change the outcomes of society so that that justice is rectified and it feels better to live here, to live inside the society. When a society moves in line with justice, everyone feels better. So yeah, so it's important that we scrutinize ourselves to ensure that we are we are like not fucking up. That we're not fucking up. That we're continually trying to improve ourselves and society. Because it helps us eventually, right? Because that society is going to reflect back upon us as individuals. Our environment will improve or degrade depending upon a lot of our society's choices. The things that society creates. Because yes, there's no distinction between the individual and the society. Society, I mean, okay, there is a distinction, I guess. Because individuals are free to make a choice. Human rights. But anyways, yeah. So there, I made my statue to justice. Let's go check it out, huh? You don't know how you don't have to know how it came to be. You just have to know it is. So yeah, I haven't really, I mean, like, what's all the bad things Donald Trump has done since I've been offline, well, off camera? Like, people he sent to the concentration camp in El Salvador have returned with horrible stories of abuse and torture. like, which is, you know, pretty much par for the course when it comes to the American, well, particularly with Republican administrations, right? George W. Bush also had a torture prison in Iraq, but that was staffed by American soldiers. This time Donald Trump outsourced the torture to another country. I mean, like, it's so hard to even keep up. I should have like I didn't keep any flyers of it or anything, because I'm like, I went to the wrong one. Yeah, I went to the wrong one. But yeah, let's just walk there. So what other evil things did Donald Trump? Oh, no, this is it. We're here. We're here. Like, what does that even mean? I can't. I can't see nothing. Right? I can't see anything. How do you even get in? Did I even make the entrance? You know, I think I started in like, and I forgot. Nope, not there. Yep. Ah, that's funny. That's still not, like, you can't even see it. Like, it's too close. There's your balance, your scales. And there's your sword. It's a laser sword. It's a laser sword that goes into space. All right. Boom shakalaka. So that's what you have to have truth and justice together. You can't have one without the other. Truth and justice go together. No. Ta-da! Okay. Man, I have this big deal. So, it's important. Okay. So, education is one way that society reproduces itself and its values. And where does that education happen? In the school districts, in the public school districts. So those school districts are administered. There's a way that, you know, we live in a democracy. So we in a republic, but it's a representative republic, a democratic republic. In that, our representatives are chosen through democracy. So, and remember, like these, you know, so there's like a school board, right? That you elect, the community elects people to represent them on the school board, who then in turn administers the education system of their town. And in Salem, in District 4, what do they call that? I don't even know. Man. Yeah, Zone 4. In Zone 4, there's a representative from Zone 4. Like, I've already spoken about the Salem Kaiser School District before with another person. Now I'm talking about another person. This person is Satya Chandragiri. Satya Chandragiri. is the representative for Zone 4 of the Salem-Keizer School District. And you're like, oh, that's interesting, right? I wonder what the representative, the school board member for Zone 4, I wonder what his thoughts are on the education of our children here in Salem-Keizer School District. So I go to his page, right? I go check him out. I'm gonna go check him out. So there he is. Doctor, right? Doctor. Ooh, he's educated. Dr. Satya Chandragiri, Salem-Keizer School District Board Director. He's the director. Holy shit. This guy is like seriously impactful upon the education system here in Salem-Keizer. This is like hyper local. This is actually, something about, where I live. And he says, it's time to ensure student safety, prioritize academic success, and restore respect and transparency for parents. Those sound like dog whistles to me, right? That sounds like a dog whistle. Of course you want student safety. Of course you want to prioritize academic success. But restore respect and transparency for parents? Huh? I don't know. Let's see. I'm the director for Zone 4 of the Salem-Keizer School District Board. What else? What else does he post about? I want to get some clarification as to what he thinks about transparency and respect for parents and for academic success for the school district. And this is his next post. Chandragiri. And he's like, even the Prince of Peace faced rejection in his own land, yet his legacy endures. What? What? Dude is talking about fucking Christian shit. Some religious stuff on his page for Salem-Keizer School District director. He talks about Jesus. What? What? What does it have to do with anything about the education of our kids? Like, American education is secular. It has nothing to do with religion. If you want to talk religion, go to Sunday school. Right? This is ridiculous. What do you mean? You're the director of the Salem-Keizer School District, and you're posting Christian religion stuff on your page. In just 7 months, we've witnessed remarkable breakthroughs. Armenia and Azerbaijan are forging peace. Rwanda and Congo are finding common ground. And tensions between Israel and Iran, Thailand and Cambodia, India and Pakistan are easing. I don't know, man. Let's hold hope for an end to the conflicts in Russia and Ukraine, and between Israel and Gaza. You mean the Palestinians? Like Palestine? Because, France in September is going to join a lot of other nations like Mexico and Canada and the UK and I think Spain. They're all recognizing Palestine as a state. So it's weird that he's not, talking about the Palestinians. With leaders like President Putin, fuck Putin, and President Trump coming together. Oh, that's not good. That's bad. That's bad. President Putin is a fucking criminal who's engaged in war crimes. He steals Ukrainian children and sends them back to Ukraine or to Russia to brainwash them into thinking that they've always been Russian. He's invading a sovereign nation to steal their territory. Like, yeah, he's evil. You don't want to fucking team up with an evil guy. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to team up with an evil guy? So, with leaders like President Putin and President Trump come together, it's real bad. Right? The prospect of peace seems within reach. Why do you think that? Why do you think, like, Putin has not made any changes to his demands? Right? None. Zero. He's still the aggressor. Their meeting next week could be a pivotal moment. Yes, Americans, understand that Putin is fair game. He's fair game. He's fair game. He'll be within reach. He's coming within reach. You can reach him. You can reach Putin. Imagine what would happen. Then you can achieve peace in Ukraine, finally. Putin is an obstacle to peace. Putin is the reason why Russia is invading Ukraine. And he's coming to the United States. Putin is coming to the United States. He is a threat. Putin is a threat to the well-being and integrity of the United States. Putin is a threat. We have the opportunity to do the most amazing thing ever. The most amazing thing ever. If you're serious about peace, there's a way to achieve it. In which that would stop all the killing. Like, all the Russians will go home. There's a way to do it. There's a way to do it. Think about all the people's lives that would be saved. Think about all the kids that were kidnapped. Imagine if somebody invaded your land. Just imagine, right? Just imagine somebody invaded your land and killed your parents. You're a little kid, right? You're a little kid. You're just living your life in your country. You're just a little kid. And suddenly foreigners show up and kill your parents and take you away. And they raise you in a totally different family that teaches you totally foreign stuff. Completely foreign. They just ignore your entire past. Your parents and your old way of life, your old country, are gone. You are implanted with all these different ideas now from these different people. And they tell you that, oh yeah, your old life, those people were bad. Imagine what that would be like to have to go through that. Oh wait, that's right, the United States did exactly that to the Native Americans, to the Indians. America did the same exact thing. So we know already that it's evil. We already know it's bad. We already know it's terrible. It's evil. It goes against our American values and ideals, our stated American values and ideals of truth, justice, and liberty. Stealing children to socialize them into your culture is evil. We know this. The United States is guilty of doing this. So why would we want to help another country, Russia, do the same thing to Ukraine when we already know it's bad? We already know it's evil. So anyways, so this Dr. Chandragiri seems like he doesn't know what's going on. Like like he's like reading out of the Bible instead of like actually paying attention to what's going on. So as, what does he say? As CNN aptly put it, so I don't care, right? But like, this is supposed to be a school district dude, not a fucking political analyst. As CNN aptly, he says, as CNN aptly put it, our president is the most influential leader of this century. Oh, I don't know about that. Influential, more like law breaking, right? I mean, he literally tried to overthrow the election in 2020. Through violence, through a violent insurrection. And the only reason he's not in prison now is because the people, I don't know, Americans are pretty gullible, I guess. Or there's a lot of white supremacists, a lot more white supremacists than I want to believe. That's our choice, right? Either gullible or white supremacists. I mean, you can be both. Okay, let's see. Their meeting next week could be a pivotal moment. As CNN aptly put it, our president is the most influential leader of the century. May peace prevail. Okay, all right. And may God bless our nation's effort to bring nations together. I wouldn't be making references to deities in a secular school board position. Quote, God saved his life twice, so that he could save many more lives and bring peace and ends of the wars worldwide. So God chose for some random fireman in the crowd to get murdered. So President Trump could open Everglades Auschwitz. I mean, because that's what it is. It's another death camp. The Everglades concentration camp is a death camp. They're just waiting for people to die from disease or neglect. It's a death camp. Like, not all death camps require showers, with poison gas. Sometimes a death camp is just putting people in such terrible conditions that the attrition takes its course. So that's weird that this dude would be on his official Salem Kaiser School District Facebook page, be spreading Christian propaganda and right-wing propaganda. Like, is that right-wing propaganda? I don't know, but it's leaning pretty close to it. Like, I don't know what the peace deal between those two countries have anything to do with being a director from the Salem Kaiser School District. I don't know what's about. But let's dig deeper, right? Let's keep going. No, yeah, that one? Yeah, this one. Oh, shit. Look at, he says, thank you to the brave intelligence community whistleblower who courageously came forward to expose the truth about one of our biggest and most impactful scandals in our nation's history. Yeah, the way Donald Trump worked with Russia to overthrow American democracy, said DNI Gabbard. I wonder if some patriotic FBI personnel refused to erase evidence in all those burn bags, hoping that eventually the truth will set us free, and perhaps justice will be served against those who wanted to plant a false narrative, even at the risk of tearing down our republic and harming our nation, and sow distrust in Americans, and even potentially creating conditions for global wars. Yeah, dude, fuck Donald Trump and the traitors that went along with him, right? Yeah, I agree. I wonder if some media will ever be held accountable for framing the false narrative and fueling irreparable damage. Yeah, Fox News already has to pay like $800 million because it propagated the false narrative on Dominion voting machines. So do you see how the lack of context lets Dr. Satya Chandragiri do winks and dog whistles? Because if I interpret it with my broad understanding of the context, then yeah, this could sound almost reasonable. But it's if you understand what he's really, look at the source, DNI Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is pro-Russia. She was one of those. She was a disruptive Democrat. Well, I wouldn't say. Well, yeah, she was kind of shitty Democrat, and then she jumped ship to the Republican side. just like what's her face, Cinema, Kristen Cinema. Anyways, it reads like a massive, complex crime novel. So here, what he's pointing to is the one by Tulsi Gabbard, but I'm going to point you to Heather Cox Richardson, right? She is a historian, so she's a doctor too. So let's read what she has to say, right? Let's provide context, because I want to compare and contrast Dr. Chandragiri versus Dr. Richardson. Okay, two doctors. One's a doctor of medicine and one's a doctor of history. Okay. August 8th, 2025. During the 2024 presidential campaign, Donald Trump vowed he could stop Russia's war on Ukraine with a single phone call. Instead, Matt Murphy and Ned Davies of the BBC report that Russian attacks on Ukraine have doubled since Trump took office. Today was the deadline for that the president had announced for Russian President Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire in his illegal invasion of Ukraine, or face further sanctions. Instead, Trump announced this afternoon that he intends to meet with Putin on August 15th in Alaska. So he's arranging to surrender. See, Putin generally cannot travel outside Russia because he has been indicted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes, including the theft of Ukrainian children. And yet, Trump is welcoming him to the United States of America. So we have the chance to do something incredible, Americans, true Americans, the patriots out there. We have the chance, right? He'll be within range. We could bring peace to Ukraine right now. And even save Russia, right? Because like Russia is not better off with Putin in power. Like Putin runs a dictatorship. So Russians are oppressed. Maybe the elite Russians are doing well because they can crime for free, but all the other Russians are suffering under Putin. Like some American could be the most like sung hero in history. Sing songs forever. Okay. See. This welcome gives Putin the huge gift of letting him touch down on U.S. soil after he invaded Ukraine in defiance of the policy established after World War II to prevent another such devastating war. In 1945, the United Nations Charter declared that, quote, all members shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations. The United States was the key guarantor of this principle until Trump took office. So Donald Trump has wrecked our integrity. The United States has stood against Russian invasions into Ukraine, not only on this general principle, but because of security guarantees the U.S., along with the United Kingdom and Russia, gave to Ukraine in 1994. After the Soviet Union crumbled in 1991, Ukraine had the third largest stockpile of nuclear weapons in the world. In exchange for Ukraine's giving up those weapons, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Russia agreed to secure Ukraine's borders. So in other words, Ukraine had the third largest stockpile of nukes, and America and UK and Russia said, look, Ukraine, if you give those up and like denuclearize yourself, we will guarantee that your country will be safe. We guarantee it. Russia, UK, and America guarantees it. If you give up your nukes, we will make sure that you stay whole, that you're protected. Guess what Russia did? Russia doesn't have any integrity, right? Their government has no integrity. So they totally abandoned their commitment, their public commitment. They abandoned their public commitment and attacked Ukraine. Donatello Paolo Mancini, Alberto Nardelli, and Darna Krasnolutska of Bloomberg reported this morning that U.S. and Russian officials are planning the summit to hammer out an agreement that will force Ukraine to cede to Russia its lands currently occupied by Russian troops, as well as Crimea. This deal would hand Ukraine's eastern industrial territory to Russia and bless the principle that one country can seize territory from another country through force. In other words, what Donald Trump is arranging to give territory to Russia. So it's saying at the same time to China, it's okay to go ahead and take Taiwan through force. It's okay. If Russia can do it, you can do it too, China. Go for it. Take Taiwan by force. The United Nations doesn't exist anymore. No one cares. That's what's happening right now in Russia. Like, I understand there's a bunch of Americans who are utterly brainwashed, who can't fucking comprehend this. That this is the absolute end of America, like American leadership. They don't understand it. They won't even look. Like, I was trying to talk to some dude on Facebook who was in support of Chandragiri, and I tried to give him like video evidence of it, and like he just doesn't understand it. He just like, I'm like, oh look, you agree with Russia, and he just doesn't understand that he agrees with Russia. He just doesn't understand it. His brain can't comprehend it. Okay. Observers note that once this principle is established, as Putin wishes, there will be nothing stopping him from invading Ukraine again, as soon as his war-weary country recovers its strength. Right? Because once you say, okay, it's cool, you can keep any land you take. If you use force to take land, you can keep it. Russia's like, great, let me get some strength back and I'll go take more territory, because now we're all okay with it. Right? Isn't that fucked up? Isn't that fucked up? That's what Donald Trump wants to agree to. That's what Republicans want to agree to. That's what MAGA wants to agree to. Because they're MAGA. They're fucking MAGA. Like, understand, when I say MAGA, it's the same as saying Nazi. Okay? MAGA and Nazi are the same thing. Right? Because remember, Hitler too was under the idea that he could just take land. That's what started the whole thing, right? He just fucking took Poland. He just fucking took the Netherlands. He just took whatever he could take. Because that's the understanding of dictators, is that might makes right. If you're strong and powerful, you can take anything you want. So, by agreeing to Putin's seizure of Ukrainian territory, we are guaranteeing more war. Guaranteed. So, let's continue. Russia had invaded Ukraine in 2014 and was looking for a way to grab the land it wanted without continuing to fight, right? Because it wanted to take Ukraine through corruption. You install a puppet and have the puppet just do whatever you want, and that's way cheaper than it is to literally spend your country's blood and hardware in a war. It's way better just to bribe your way into corruption. Way easier. So, Special Counsel Robert Mueller's 2019 report on the Russian interference in 2016 presidential election explained that Manafort and his partner, Russian operative Konstantin Klimnik, in summer of 2016, discussed a plan to resolve the ongoing political problems in Ukraine by creating an autonomous republic in its more industrialized eastern regions of Donbass, and having Russia-backed Viktor Yanukovych, the Ukrainian president ousted in 2014, elected to head that republic. So the plan was for Donald Trump, or for Russia to take over the eastern part of Ukraine, the part where all their industry was. Say that it's an independent republic, but then put their Russian puppet in power. Remember, Viktor Yanukovych was the Russian puppet. He was the president in Ukraine. His campaign manager was Paul Manafort, the same Paul Manafort that worked for Donald Trump. And their opponent was a woman, I forget her name, but she wanted to move Ukraine closer to the EU to liberalism, right? Freedom. Viktor Yanukovych, as a role of a Russian puppet, was to pull Ukraine back into Russia. So they ran the campaign, and part of the campaign was lock her up. Lock her up. I'm not even joking, dude. I'm not even joking. This is what really, really happened. Because Paul Manafort would just come to the United States and do the same thing against Hillary Clinton. Anyways, just like in the United States, it worked over there in Ukraine. It worked. And the Ukrainians elected the Russian puppet, Yanukovych. Well, he did like evil shit, and he was moving Ukraine back into Russia, and the people were pissed. They wouldn't take it. So I think it started in November. In the winter of 2014, the Ukrainian people started protesting, and they went in front of the presidential palace, and they wouldn't leave. They were there for like 3 months in the winter time, in freezing ass weather. Like they had at one point they brought in a water hose and shot water up, and the water would freeze, and then more water would go up, and it would freeze, and it made a ginormous ice tower in the middle of the square. And they had government snipers fucking killing the protesters. It was awful. People died. People were dying all over the place. But eventually, the Yanukovych fled, and he fled back to where? To Moscow. He went back to Moscow, and then Ukraine was free, right? And then after that, after Ukraine ousted Yanukovych, Russia invaded and took Crimea. So now these two Russian spies, Konstantin Klimnik and who was the other guy? Paul Manafort, were talking about how to get the rest of the good parts of Ukraine, the industry parts, how to chew up more parts of Ukraine. And their idea was, let's create a separatist area controlled by the Russians and put our puppet back into place. So the Mueller report continued. The plan, Manafort later acknowledged, consisted a backdoor means for Russia to control eastern Ukraine. The region that Putin wanted was the country's industrial heartland. He was offering a peace plan that would carve off much of Ukraine and make it subservient to him. This was the dead opposite of U.S. policy for a free and united Ukraine. And there was no chance that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who was running... Oh. Shit. Man, what have I done? There was no chance for former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton... Dude, come on. Like that. There was no chance that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who was running for president against Trump, would stand for it. But if Trump was elected, the equation changed. See, so the Russians needed to get Trump into power so that they could implement their plan of taking over eastern Ukraine. So, according to the Republican-dominated Senate Intelligence Committee, Klimnik wrote, "All that is required to start the process is a very minor wink or slight push from Donald Trump saying he wants peace in Ukraine and Donbass back in Ukraine, and a decision to be a special representative and manage this process." Following that, Klimnik suggested that Manafort could start the process and, within 10 days, visit Russia. Following that, Klimnik suggested that Manafort could start the process and, within 10 days, visit Russia. Yanukovych guarantees your reception at the very top level, cutting through all the bullshit and getting down to business. Ukraine and key EU capitals. The email also suggests that once then, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko understood this message from the United States, the process would go very fast, and Donald Trump could have peace in Ukraine basically within a few months after inauguration. In other words, once Russia takes the eastern part of Ukraine and Crimea and absorbs it back into Russia, there would be quote-quote peace. According to the Senate Intelligence Committee, the men continued to work on what they called the Mariupol Plan, at least until 2018. After Russia invaded Ukraine again in 2022, Jim Ruttenberg published a terrific and thorough review of this history in the New York Times Magazine. Once his troops were in Ukraine, Putin claimed he had annexed Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson, two of which were specifically named in the Mariupol Plan, and instituted martial law on them, claiming that the people there had voted to join Russia. On June 14, 2024, as he was wrongfully imprisoning American journalist Evan Gershovich, Putin made a peace proposal to Ukraine that sounded much like the Mariupol Plan. He offered a ceasefire if Ukraine would give up Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson, including far more territory than Putin's troops could occupy, and he wanted them to abandon their plans to join NATO. On June 27, 2024, in a debate during which he insisted that he and he alone could get Gershovich released, and then talked about Putin's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, Trump seemed to indicate that he knew about the Mariupol Plan. Quote, Putin saw that. He said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it. His dream. That plan reappeared in April and once again is back on the table. At the same time, officials from this, the second Trump administration, are working to rewrite the history of Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election, that led to Trump's first administration. Although it was well established that the Russian operatives worked to elect Trump in 2016, Trump has consistently tried to undermine that history by insisting that the many findings of Russian help for his campaign in 2016 were a hoax. Oh, look! This is exactly what Satya Chandragiri is talking about. Satya Chandragiri is working for the Trump administration to undermine the American report in favor of Russia. Isn't that funny? All right, hold on. I gotta do something real quick. I'll be back. Okay, I'm still here. I'm gonna make some more coffee though, alright? So understand, Chandragiri is correct that it sounds like a fucking spy novel, dude. But that's what it really is. It's incredible. Now, there are people who are, who don't want to read any of the reports. They just go by what people say. So, even if you give them the report and point it out, they won't read it. I don't know if they won't read it or if they're not capable of reading it. of under, like, I think a lot of Americans are functionally illiterate in that they can read something and say the words, but they don't have any idea what the words mean. They don't understand it. They have no comprehension. That's the word. They don't have reading comprehension. They can read, but they're not able to get any meaning out of it without great effort. And even then, oftentimes it's not correct. Like, I saw some streamer dude try to read something off the internet, and he, like, not only did he mispronounce the words, but it was obvious he didn't understand what it meant, and he substituted a word that he did know, but then, like, the meaning was all lost. I just think Americans just can't they don't have reading comprehension. They can read the words, but the words don't mean anything to them. Anyways, where was I? Lately, MAGA loyalists have worked to claim that the real story of the 2016 campaign was not Russian support for the Trump campaign, but rather a Democratic conspiracy to push the story of the Trump campaign's connections to Russia. On Wednesday, Warren P. Strobel of The Washington Post reported that the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, last month overrode the advice of the intelligence community when she declassified and released a highly classified report on Russia's interference in the 2016 election. Oh, so Tulsi Gabbard helped the Russians, because the Russians were like, holy shit, how did you find that about us? How did you find that out? Like... And Tulsi Gabbard, at first, the American spies were like, we're not going to fucking tell you how we do it. But Tulsi Gabbard comes in and says, oh, no, give them everything. Show everything. So this is like a double betrayal. Not only is she betraying the intelligence community, but she's also giving away the means by which the Americans got that information. Right? So she's totally pro-Russia. So, the document made reference to sensitive sources and methods, but Trump supported Gabbard's release of the report, right? Because the whole point is to destroy the United States, right? So they're going to destroy everything. Like, we had eyes and ears inside Russia, and Gabbard was going to make sure that those eyes and ears are destroyed. Russia's going to be like, oh, that's how you found out. Let me go kill those people real quick. White House officials appear to be revisiting the story of Russian interference in the 2016 election to try and distract voters from the story of Trump's relationship to convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Their pivot to this position has tied the two stories together in a way that had not previously been suggested. The surprising association has led Democratic political strategist Simon Rosenberg of Hopium Chronicles to speculate that Putin might possess some form of the Epstein files that Trump would prefer to keep from seeing the light of day. Certainly, Putin is behaving like someone who is holding a strong hand of cards. Today, Jennifer Jacobs, Margaret Brennan, and Olivia Gazis of CBS News reported that Putin, quote, needled Trump this week by giving his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, the Order of Lenin, a Soviet-era award that commended outstanding service to the state, to pass on to the mother of 21-year-old American Michael Gloss, who was killed in 2024 fighting in Ukraine on behalf of Russia. So some American dude was so brainwashed that he joined Russia. His mom was a CIA operative, and he joined Russia, and Russia had him killed on the front lines in Ukraine. And now they're giving his American mother a reward as a fuck you, basically. Like, we killed your son. Ha ha ha. Apparently, after he was killed, Russian officials learned that his mother, Julianne Galina, serves at the CIA. By giving Witkoff an award named for the first Soviet head of state, the first head of the Soviet state to pass on to a CIA employee, Putin appeared to suggest that the Soviet Union had won the Cold War after all. Do you understand that? What it means to win the Cold War? There was a war between the United States and the Soviet Union as to whose system would win. The liberal system of human rights of the Americans, or the system of power and dominance as proposed by the Soviets. And it appeared that the Soviets had lost because their state had crumbled. But Putin resurrected that state again. I mean, Russia is not the same as the Soviet Union in terms of power, because it doesn't have direct control over a lot of states, but it has indirect control. And it has the ability to use corruption. After all, why use your military when you can just use corruption to take over a country? And that's what Putin did. Putin used corruption to take over Ukraine until the Ukrainian people kicked out the Russian puppet, Yanukovych. And then so Russia had to invade Ukraine. Putin used corruption to install Donald Trump, who would then destroy the United States from within. So it's looking pretty bad so far. That, like, there's a lot of people who are like incredibly stupid, and they're in positions of power. People like this dude right here. This dude right here on his school board Facebook page is pushing Russian propaganda about the corrupt, Satya Chandragiri. And he'll never respond to anything I say, right? I can post up reports and proof and everything. He'll never respond. He doesn't give a fuck. He's brainwashed. And he holds a position of power over your kids. Remember how I said education is one of the ways that society reproduces its values? What kind of values is Satya Chandragiri pushing? He's pushing fascism. Satya Chandragiri is pushing corruption. Satya Chandragiri is pushing imperialism. He implicitly supports stealing children from their parents and brainwashing them into fascism. And this isn't just idle chit-chat, right? It's like I gave you the fucking evidence. There's the context. If you have a problem with any of that context, talk to me. Satya Chandragiri could at any time write a response to me saying, oh, wait a minute, I disagree with that or this or this. No, he never does. He never will, because he doesn't actually care about the truth. He only cares about power because he's a fascist. So in more positive news, Avelo Airlines is leaving Salem, and today is their last flight. After today, Avelo Airlines, the airlines that serves American concentration camps, will no longer operate out of Salem. Good job, Salem. Good job, people of Salem who rose up to resist the drift toward fascism. Because that's what fascism really wants. It wants to be normalized. It wants people to live their lives as if nothing is different. Like, we're going to kidnap your fucking neighbors. Masked people are going to hop out of vans. Masked bounty hunters are going to hop out of vans and kidnap your neighbors. But we want you to just act like everything's okay and normal. Yeah, no, that's fucking terrible. Right? This is an outrage what's going on. We're literally watching the fascists take over the United States. We're literally watching it happen. So, yeah, so good on them, Salem people, for protesting Avelo Airlines in person, at the airports, at the city hall. Like, and I want to shout out to city council member Vanessa Nordyke, who gave a strong condemnation of the concentration camp flights and of Velo Airlines. Like, I kind of understand her position. I mean, the city's position. I had a whole deal about it before. But I mean, I could see that there was support there. And if there was a solution that could be found, that she'd be supportive of it. But yeah, good job on Salem. So, like, there's a point to resisting. We should be resisting. We need to resist. We can't slide into fascism. I mean, we could slide into fascism. We are sliding into fascism. I mean, some would say that we're already there in fascism. We're already there. The Supreme Court is corrupt, and really, we've already started the civil war here. Like, Donald Trump ordered Texas to give itself more votes, saying that they were entitled to have more House votes. So that means Texas is going to redistrict itself right in the middle. The rules say we redistrict once every like 10 years. But they just redistricted like a little while ago. But now Texas, in order to give themselves more votes, they're gonna do a mid-system a mid, like, they're gonna do it early. They're gonna redistrict early, and they're gonna use a process called gerrymandering to give themselves 5 extra seats. Now, I did like a big thing about gerrymandering before. You already know what it is, and if you don't, it's a way of that gerrymandering is a way that politicians use to draw the lines of the districts so that they choose their voters. It's a way for politicians to choose who they want to vote for them. And if you know, like, the layout of the city and where the people are, you can draw lines and choose which people you want to vote for you and which people you want to vote for the other person. That way you can like, if there's a group that you don't like, you can spread them out across like 5 or 6 districts by cutting them up. And then the rest of them, you compact into all of them. You compact into one massive district, so that you do that so that they only get one tiny vote, even though they deserve a lot more. That's gerrymandering. It's a way of doing it, and both parties do it, right? Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's a partisan thing. It's a feature of the American system that of gerrymandering, which is like an abomination. It's an abomination in the eyes of democracy, because politicians should not be the ones choosing their voters. That's like putting democracy on its head. You don't want the government choosing who the voters are. You want the voters to choose who the government is. Like, that's the whole point of representative democracy. But the American system has a weakness, and that weakness is called single-member districts. The idea is that, well, you want single-member districts so that one single person is responsible for the issues in your particular geographic region. So your particular land has certain issues that you want this one guy to represent. And that's what leads to gerrymandering, because all you have to do in that district is get 50% plus 1 of the votes, and then you can essentially ignore all the 49% of other people that live there in order to cater to that 51%. So it's terrible, right? When you lose completely, utterly. Like, you get no representation. So is that a good for democracy? Fuck no, dude. No, you don't. Like, the whole point of democracy is to make the government representative of the people, to make the government responsive of the people. Because when the government's not responsive of the people, you don't have democracy anymore. You have authoritarianism. And we've already tried that for thousands of years. We've tried that for thousands of years. It's not anything brand new. Authoritarianism isn't something that we just came up with. We've tried it for thousands of years. And it doesn't fucking work. So what's the solution? If this iteration of single member district is so fucked up and easily hackable, how do you fix it so it's not hacked? What do you do? And the answer to that is multi-member districts. Multi-member districts. Instead of 5, 6, 10 districts in a state cutting it up, and then by cutting it up, you have to draw lines. And when you have to draw lines, now you open up the possibility of choosing your voters. Someone has to draw the lines, and it's really easy for that person to be corrupted and draw lines to favor a particular group. It's real easy. It's super easy. It's just human nature in a way. So we need to devise a system in which that's not even an issue. That's not even possible. It's not even possible to pick your voters. The way you do that is multi-member voting, or districts. Instead of 10 separate little districts with all drawing lines, you have one district, the whole state, the whole thing. And in that thing, you don't vote for a particular person, you vote for a party. You're voting for a party, not a person. You're voting for a party. And the party can come out and say, yeah, this is our platform. We want to do this and that and this and that. And another party can come out and say, no, we want to do this and that and this and that. And a third party can come out and say, oh, we want to do this and that and this and that. Yeah. And then maybe some parties can work together to get some things that they agree on to get done, right? So, like, even if, like, suppose you have leftists and you have liberals. They don't always agree on stuff, but there are a lot of things they do agree on. So they can work together to get those things done. The two separate parties can work together to get things done, with a third party completely opposing it. Still, right? It's possible. So now, because what you're doing is now you're moving away from first past the post voting, winner take all, where the winner controls the whole thing. Now we're getting away from that. Now we're moving to proportional representation. If you do multi-member voting, multi-member districts, now you have a swath of choices to choose. You don't have to vote for either Democrat or Republican. You can have multiple people. So in your state, if your party only gets 20% of the votes, it doesn't, in the current system, you would have zero representation in Congress. 20% of the votes, zero representation. That sucks. That doesn't inspire confidence in the government. Instead, with proportional representation, if you get 20% of the votes, you get 20% of the seats. That means your vote counts no matter what. There's no throwing away your vote on a third party. Right? If you want to vote for a third party, go ahead and do it. Right? Because if you get 15% of the votes, you'll get 15% of the seats. You're going to be represented no matter what. Unless, like, you vote for, like, an extreme fringe party and get less than 5%. And then I don't think you get a seat. But, yeah. This opens up the opportunity to allow the government to, number one, be more to get rid of gerrymandering, where the politicians choose the voters. So you want to get rid of that. You don't want the power to go from the government down to the people. The power comes from the people, goes up to the government. So we got to change that system to reflect that. That means a system like the Senate is pretty much outdated. It's broken. The Senate only gives the same representation no matter how much population you have. So that means like 700,000 people in Wyoming would have the same power as 28 million people in California. That's fucked up, man. That's fucked up. That doesn't inspire confidence in the government when your representation is so diminished. Like, how can you say that the government is reflective of the people if you do something like that, when you give like less than 1 million people more power than multiple millions of people? So there's a way forward. The problem is to get to that system. I think it's going to require a civil war. I don't know how, because like how are you going to change this? Change it? How are you going to change it? The dominant powers are happy with the way the system works right now. Like Republicans don't even want democracy. Like they're literally Nazis. They're fascists. They don't even want democracy. So we have to think about, like, we have to imagine a better system. And right now I'm watching the battle between states through gerrymandering. They're gonna see who can gerrymander the best. Like, it shouldn't even be that kind of a competition. Like, that shouldn't even exist. We shouldn't even have a system where the voters, where the politicians choose the voters. That shouldn't even happen. Anyways. Yeah, this is not something that's just like far away, distant. This is like down to our school districts, down to the future. Our kids are going through a system right now that people like Satya Chandragiri want to administer and change. And they're crazy. They're crazy. They're conspiracy theorists that repeat Russian propaganda. They're anti-American. They push a anti-American perspective. I mean, you have to understand, Donald Trump and the Republicans are fascists. They're literally the enemies of the United States. I know this because the Trump administration is spending $10 million to restore a Confederate monument and they're going to install it in Washington, D.C. That's like as if the Germans dug up a statue of Adolf Hitler, spent money to repair him, and then put him up in Berlin. Like, people being like, that's kind of Nazi, isn't it? Yes, it's kind of Nazi. It's the same thing. The Republicans, Donald Trump, are digging up a statue of a Confederate, spending American money, taxpayer money, to restore it, and they're putting him up in the Capitol. That's because they're Confederates. And Confederates are what? Enemies of the United States. Remember, Donald Trump literally renamed U.S. Army bases back to Confederate names. They did it on purpose to rename it back to Confederate names. Like, understand who they are, right? Satya Chandragiri is a supporter of the Confederacy and of the overthrow of democracy. It's not like I'm picking out some rando. Like, he's literally a director of the Salem Kaiser School Board. He's a director. I don't know if he's the director or a director. But he's there. He's a position of power. And it's an American tradition to hold your leaders accountable. And Chandragiri is fucking up big time. Alright, that'll do it for me. Until next time, until they arrest me, I don't know. Pogo Kiddo out. Peace. Stop.